Welcome back to the LCS Academy. My name's TJ. I've recovered. There was a fake Seraphine fan in my midst, but we're back, joined by Joshi as we continue. The game of chess is old news. Tell me about Go.
Go. Oh, wow. You're talking about old news. Go is even older than chess, my dude. But we'll get to see a little bit more on that because we got to go on. That's a segue to our next game, our second to last game of the day here, as we are going to be watching
these Zoomers in their checkerboard game.
Sorry.
CLG
we are
Academy.
going to be watching that and 100 Thieves Academy coming up right next. Wow. I went a whole day without doing any of that. And then suddenly it just comes out right as I'm in the middle of speaking. I feel like this is your fault, isn't it? Are you trying to sabotage me, TJ?
You're a checkerboard game Zoomer. You're too busy thinking about chess. Over here talking about Go. AIs can't... Actually, no. AIs have solved Go now.
They have. Well, they're better than us.
Let's talk about the CLG Academy roster. It was a little in flux. I'm still not entirely sure what we're getting in terms of the visa situation there, but they do have a couple of really exciting players and a couple of name changes. I believe we do have a sub in for Katsurugi, who was one of the Chiefs OPL players in the AD carry role. I believe they aren't able to make it over, and we have Luke, who you may recognize from Wildcard Gaming, which is an amateur team. We also have Auto from 100 Thieves, now going by the name Hooks. They, of course, used to play under the name Auto for CLG Academy as an AD carry, dropped out, fell out of Academy into the 100 Next program, role swapped over to support, and now back on CLG Academy. And playing against many of their former teammates, because on the 100 Thieves Academy side, it is a full 100 Next alumni class.
Yeah, of course. We have Tenacity, Kenvi, and Poom, who all came out fairly recently from the 100 Thieves roster, and Papa Smithy's been doing a fantastic job at identifying new up-and-coming players, because all of these guys have been looking really, really strong across the board. There's been kind of a long discussion about, what kind of talent actually exists in North America to actually find support and jungle players, and wow, Kenvi and Poom really coming on very strong and looking to make their name here in Academy before they move their way on up to potentially have the next generation of strong LCS native slots.
Riam also joining them. 100 Thieves doing a good job of hanging on to players who they believe in, and I really appreciate that. One of the people they'd picked up was a kind of a left field, and you're looking at them with all their good scouting, and you're like, oh, maybe the 100 Next have done it again. Was Luger, who played in the TCL, won the TCL with Galacticos. I apologize if I said that wrong. Unfortunately, Luger, due to visa issues, hasn't gotten here, and so they will be using a sub today. It will be Andy Bending, who you sure are familiar with. Joshi, would you like to give us the rundown on Andy Bending?
Oh, for sure. Andy Bendy's been another name that's been chilling out in the amateur scene for quite a long time, and he's been well known having played in things like Scouting Grounds, and is currently playing in Proving Grounds in order to really show what he can do. And he's been a very consistent AD carry across a long period of time. You can kind of think of him as an up-and-coming Reckless. He's not necessarily going to be the strongest laning AD carry, but man, is he positioned well in team fights. He's always in the right spot to make sure that he's going to be getting a ton of damage down, and hopefully should be able to stand up with all of these kind of stars of the 100 Thieves Next program as he going into some of his first Academy games.
And I have to say, the only thing that matters for me is the top side of this 100 Academy roster. Because you have Tenacity, and you have Kenvi. And yes, if you were paying attention to Amateur League of Legends at all last year, those are the two names you heard. Tenacity was reliably able to take over games. He was the best top laner in Amateur, and he was overshadowed only by the fact that Kenvi was playing on the same team, and oftentimes there wouldn't be a game left over to take over because Kenvi was so reliably blowing games open in that jungle role.
Yeah, it's really kind of a showcase in how aggressive junglers can be incredibly impactful. And looking at the roster where it's a little bit unclear who's going to be playing for CLG overall, they still have RJS, formerly Deus, coming into the mid lane, and that's going to be an opportunity for them to try and punish there. But it's a roster that has played together for quite a long time at this point. We already touched on the fact that Tenacity, Kenvi were playing together also with Poom, and they have a lot of coordination that they're going to be able to really play off of, whereas CLG might not have had a whole lot of time to really put anything together, and is going to, we'll have to see if they can have the same kind of success as Immortals did, who said that, hey, we had like 2 games prior to this before we actually played as 5.
Yeah, with regards to RJS, people remember Deus as the top laner in Academy for a while, played on BBQ Olivers, famously under the tutelage of LS, and role swapped from mid to top lane on that BBQ Olivers roster. So this isn't out of left field, it is a role swap back, but it is a role swap back since 2019. Deus, or RJS as they are now called, has been playing top lane.
Yeah, it's a similar thing to what we were seeing with, you know, the Tally Tapoon situation, right? Where, you know, it's kind of a thing where it can be pretty different to like switch between the 2 lanes. If you haven't really had an opportunity to play in a 5 situation, you know, people do it in solo queue all the time, but doing it in a 5 state where you are having to pay a lot more attention to where all of the waves are going to be pushing and how you actually maneuver all of these minion waves throughout the entire thing is going to be such a different beast, and I'm curious to see how well Deus is going to be able to transition back into his original role.
It's time to get into things. Champion select. Not to interrupt you, Josh. You're making a good point. CLG Academy.
I'm doing my best.
You're doing really good.
Brandini. All right.
CLG Academy, the roster we were a little confused about, flexible with. We do get Brandini in. We do get Keel in. And it looks like everything else is as we expected.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they end up playing as a group, as we are seeing a little bit of a departure from the traditional bans that we've been seeing so far throughout the day, where Red Side has banned Pantheon Olaf as their first 2, and we see one of them. But the question is a 100 Thieves Academy going to also ban the Pantheon next, or are they trying to bait CLG into doing it for them?
Now I just want to watch. 100 Thieves Academy, I think I want to see them prioritize this top side of the map. Andy Bendy is good, don't get me wrong. He's a very, very solid, aggressive AD carry player in the bot lane. But the 100 Academy that they have built as a full team, I think has its strengths up towards the top side. And if you draft around that now, then you don't have to worry about what player you're playing with come game time next week. We do get the Pantheon ban from 100 Academy, and therefore first pick Talia passed over to Keel.
Yeah, Talia's kind of been rising up as one of these super strong junglers because of how powerful they are with any gank assist. If there's any hard crowd control in any of your lanes, you're suddenly able to lock down somebody and do a ton of burst damage all at once without a whole lot of counterplay in ways that Nidalee was previously the star AP jungler to do that. But now, we see the Camille and Galio coming through, and 100 Thieves Academy have a very classic engage composition.
Yeah, and the Galio is a very good pick away for exactly that reason, because imagine a CLG roster that is Galio, Kai'Sa, Talia right now. That is a ton of follow-up behind either the Kai'Sa or the Talia, as is. It will be defensive follow-up instead, a Shen coming through, as CLG are still building based on the theory that they're going to have their engage from squishier characters and have to bail them out. It's really good for CLG that, or for 100 Thieves, that CLG don't have a Galio to do that with.
Yeah, interesting. So the Shen, again, has a pretty decent matchup into the Camille. You're able to stat check rather aggressively through it, but the Nidalee coming through kind of throws the gauntlet right on back from Kenvi to Keel, because Talia can kind of struggle in a lot of these longer duels due to the fact that Nidalee has those heals and has better auto attacks throughout a lot of it. And with the long cooldown early on in the game from Talia's Q, we'll see how effectively Keel is going to be able to move around the map.
Yeah, I think I want to build that up, though. It is Kenvi getting the Nidalee, which was one of his best champions during his season in Amateur. Kenvi is just so mechanically talented that a character like Nidalee is absolutely what you're looking for them to pick up. We do get into our second ban phase, and it's mid lane targets for 100. And get rid of RJS's potential to play either Yone or Lucian.
Yeah, and they're banning away these AD champions as well, simply because of the fact that Talia already on the board. They don't want to give CLG too much freedom in the way that they're going to be drafting. There's still a couple options around. There's obviously still things like the Jace, or if he's feeling ballsy, he can still bring out the Zed as well, who's been making a lot of solo queue waves. But Andy Bendy going to be picking up a Jhin and kind of hide their likely support pick pretty heavily.
Yeah, and this does indicate that that bot lane is likely to get a little less in the way of resources. Because Jhin can play pretty safe, can play at a distance. So that would line up with what I expected them to do during our discussion pre-draft. We'll get a Leona in to complete the bot lane over on CLG, making it Kai'Sa Leona, and we're hovering the final pick, which will be mid lane in the hands of RJS, who again, if you're tuning in for the first time and you're not sure who that is Degas formerly. A little bit of a rename there. It'll be Zoe.
Yeah. Zoe, interesting. That's actually one of the characters that Galio has pretty decent kill pressure against, so I'm kind of surprised to see that coming through. But the biggest thing is now that is another member that is going to struggle to get away from the Camille Galio combo. Previously you had the Talia and the Kai'Sa, now you also add the Zoe to it, and suddenly we have even more engage tools. So I really like this coming out from 100 Thieves Academy because you have 4 members diving in, and there's not a whole lot of pressure necessarily being put up against Andy Bendy's Jhin, so he's going to be able to rein in damage relatively freely from such a long range. And I think this is one of the best drafts we've seen so far today, where CLG have a lot of strong individual pieces, but they're going to be very reactive on the map, which is not always going to be the easiest thing to accomplish.
It's difficult for CLG to create opportunities if 100 Thieves don't overextend, don't get in a weird place, because they have a lot of punish tools. The Weaver's Wall is an excellent example of that, Killer Instinct as well, where if you are out of position, Kai'Sa can just jump in and end the fight before it begins. However, if you are a 5-man team, the Kai'Sa Killer Instinct is not an engaged threat, neither is the Talia Weaver's Wall, and they don't have the Galio to make it that. If you have the Galio, maybe it is, but they don't have that tool. So, CLG are going to have to hope that 100 Thieves make key mistakes around major objectives as we get into our second to last game of the day, Josie.
Yeah. I think the big thing that we got to see is CLG does have a pretty decent poke composition between RJS on the Zoe and Team Luke on the Kai'Sa, so they can dissuade some engages if they have a lead, but it becomes very difficult to keep people off of them once the poke stops being enough. So we'll see a lot, and now, hey, we get to talk about another kind of Jhin itemization, DJ. We got the boots plus pots, which is kind of difficult for a lot of people to play against because they're not used to having this kind of movement speed on characters this early in the game, and he'll be able to weave autos much more effectively, give Team Luke a little bit of a love tap, walk away, and suddenly he's just out of range, and there's not a whole lot of response that this Kai'Sa can make.
I thought you were gonna make the joke.
The joke
about Luke.
Well, it's not relevant yet.
I was gonna be like, oh, I've never heard that one before. And but we're not doing it yet. We're waiting for later in the game.
We're waiting for the right time, DJ. It's one thing to just like make jokes because they're there, and there's like the Tai Chi joke, right? There's preparation.
I just throw them out there. But okay, you say there's something to this timing thing. I'll trust you.
Yeah.
Speaking of timing, we have yet another slow start in terms of invades or anything like that. The bot lane for CLG does not need to leash. I believe Andy Bendy didn't either, so everyone starts safe down here in the bot lane instead.
Yeah. Not a whole lot early surprises coming out from this game. I think both of these junglers likely to go for a full clear while they wait for their laners to get a couple more levels, have a little bit more access to the crowd control before they really go for anything, and have a couple of more levels on your own so that your abilities do that extra little bit of damage, because Keel on this Talia gets a lot of base damage after putting a couple points in that Q and be able to clear quickly, and also get a lot more damage follow-up after you get the seismic shove over the rocks.
I'm keeping track of these two jungle clears here as I did hype up Kenvi rather a lot. And post 100 next, Kenvi hasn't had the Sterling game takeover experiences that I used to love. So it's gonna be, I think, one of the big journeys of him this season is can Kenvi get back to that form in Academy? Where he certainly still has been a good jungler here in Academy, but he has not been 1v9.
True. Yeah, so far, just going for a full clear. Both junglers, in fact, doing very similar routes as they now find themselves on opposite sides of the map. But Tenacity not in lane, whereas Hooks does have access to his crowd control, but they pushed Andy, Bendy, and Puma underneath the turret, and so it's difficult to find an opportunity for them to be aggressive there. And instead, we might see, you know, as both go for this kind of yin-yang. Does that die? Okay, he does get it. Whew!
Yeah.
Scared me a little bit.
Kenvi's got it.
Yeah, this is why he jungles and I don't. It was a lot of HP.
Oh. Tenacity going in for the trades. Kenvi resetting his back, certainly thinking about going in here. I do want to call out that Brandini walks too far forward, baits out the engage. Tenacity's in with this stun, but they won't find the kill.
Yeah.
When Kenvi was like roaming up, and right as you were like, but Tenacity's not here, I was looking on the map and there was the assist me ping dropped on top of Tenacity. So somebody was complaining that Tenacity was not in lane.
Well, it's alright. They still get the flash, they get the ward kill, so now he's got to be extra careful up here in the top lane as the Shen, but it also means that Kenvi spending that little bit of extra time is a little bit behind in tempo, right? He's not going to be able to clear these minions quite as quickly, and in fact, Keel, you see, is about 2 camps faster. That just means he's going to be able to interact with the rest of the map before Nidalee can really do anything.
Also, I don't know who threw down that ward down bottom there, but it has enabled Keel to invade here, starting on the Raptors. Ryoma and Kenvi did sniff this out, though, and they're pushing upwards together. Ryoma in, Keel over the wall to safety, burns the flash, but does not get caught. RJS also able to stay ahead of the taunt. Ryoma dropping the E-mine.
Yeah, overall, not bad, right? They're able to get a bunch of summoners, and now Brandini might be in a dangerous spot because he doesn't have a ward in that bush, and Tenacity might be able to actually find the crowd control for this first kill.
I would like to actually call that out. That was RJS using the heal for the speed boost to stay ahead of the taunt. That's really good.
Zoom.
Nerves of steel.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because you force the flash off of Keel, and then Ryoma was like, hey, well, we're going to try and turn to something else, but this time, Kenvi, once again, getting spotted out on the map is going to allow CLG to pick up this first dragon of the game already, quarter of the way to counting their way to 4, and with Keel down here, knowing that Andy, Bendy, and Poom continue to play underneath their turret because they have not had any support from their jungle, as we kind of expected, but it still makes their lives harder.
Yeah. And also, Kenvi hasn't found those opportunities up on the top side of the map because of the really good warding that has been thrown out. There is certainly some bullying being thrown Brandini's way, but it's not been enough to have a tangible game impact yet.
Not yet. There we go. I wonder if he's going to spot out this ward. Instead, he's going to take a couple of camps away. Okay.
Kenvi is spending this entire game illuminated like a lighthouse.
Oh. That's
Those
not
ships
good.
are going to crash
backing
into him.
away. Yeah. Ryoma's backing away. I wonder how long it's going to take them to do this, because they know, right? Like, Kenvi has not left just quite yet. He might get caught out by RJS here.
What are you doing in here? TP to try and bail Kenvi out. Kenvi will smite for some extra health.
Okay.
Ryoma off of the TP is here in the jungle with not a whole lot to do, so we'll go for this blue buff, I guess. Over the wall, taunt does land RJS though. Safe inside the Zoe ultimate. Keel does have 6. Weaver's Wall is available.
No.
Sleep will land.
Oh no.
Paddle Star can be no HP. RJS chases down first blood, and CLG are off to a great start. Tenacity in the meantime is up top on 1 HP. Weaver's Wall, Keel for the kill. Will find it, but it's a 1-1 trade as Brandini does finally go down to Ryoma's efforts. Ryoma themselves will be safe behind the turret. Heal chasing down the kills, but CLG on a 2-for-1 trade, and they're going to get even more up here on the top line. Flash,
oh my
Zenith
god,
Blade,
Ryoma.
stun, underneath the turret, there's the kill. Kill on an absolute tear.
Oh man, just like you said, Kenvi 100% of the time, they know exactly where he is. They're able to play around it. And here, Ryoma was like, all right, do I help out my friend here? Do I go top lane? Because Tenacity was also losing the 1v1 to Brandini on the opposite side of the map. And Brandini, even in the 1v2, was almost able to find the kill. And so CLG is going to reward themselves with 3 kills, the Rift Herald, and Keel even picked up the blue buff. So there's not even the gold going over to Kenvi from taking care of that camp. So this is, while the gold lead hasn't yet ballooned in any meaningful way due to the CS advantage that Tenacity was able to build up previously, it's not looking so good for 100 Thieves as they're moving into this mid game where they're the ones who are supposed to be making plays.
RJS just hovering here, and 100 Thieves, I think, suffered from a little bit of sunk cost fallacy, where they were like, well, we spent so long over here trying to make these kills happen. We've spent so long trying to invest in this side of the jungle that if we leave now, it's all going to be for naught. And indeed, they overstayed as a result.
Yeah. And then, we didn't even talk about this, but Hook spent the entire time walking from bottom lane to top lane just to show up in time to find the extra kill onto Ryoma here at the very end. And Brandini, this is a huge wave. He's going to be able to get almost all of this underneath the turret. And as soon as I say that, he misses 3. I cursed
Cut away. Yeah, I think Hooks does deserve some merit for that. Of course, formerly played under the tag of Auto and was part of that 100 Next team's dominance. And you can sort of see the heads-up roaming play that Hooks became known for under that tag in that role, as they're able to get into this top lane in time to find a key kill.
Oh, Tenacity. Talia is around. It looks like he might be scuffling with Kenvi a little bit there in the jungle, but you got to be very careful. Tenacity has had a lot of confident play, but unfortunately, it looks like he's kind of been getting punished for it overall whenever he tries to do more than just bully Brandini off of the wave. And this is what we were saying, this is a good matchup for Shen. It's just because you do so much damage off of your Q and just off of the fact that you are a very tanky melee champion that Camille can't quite match.
Tenacity on that 100 Next team was known for just reliably blowing out lane. There are plenty of top laners that are able to find solo kills. You have the whole Niles thing where Niles is going to go hard for the kills and might or might not get them, but it's going to be fiery either way. Tenacity was kind of the karmic opposite of that, where he was just going to sit there and come what may, maybe get kills if people made mistakes, otherwise just build out a gigantic CS lead. And we've seen the latter here. There was a CS lead earned by Tenacity, but as you say in the matchup, that's going to get more difficult to apply to anything as we go on.
Yeah. Crushing a Rift Herald here as well, and Tenacity cannot join this fight, but Brandini can. Is the Ocean Dragon getting there halfway to counting to 4, and with priority in the mid lane, priority in the bottom lane, this should be relatively easy, and CLG, in fact, secure that for themselves. So far, even though the gold lead isn't there, can you do this?
Heroic entrance? Is this legal? Tenacity down. Ryoma can't find the kill. No, they cannot do this.
Yuck.
Back over to you, Joshi.
Yuck. That was not particularly clean. Brandini actually found the one spot where he could go where he wasn't.
Take
caught.
2.
Yeah.
He just ran through the turret.
Goodbye.
He's now being question mark pinged by Brandini. He just ran past the turret underneath him.
Well, hey, sometimes it's faster to do that. Overall, yeah, that was rough. Brandini, again, barely stayed in such a spot where I don't think he actually got knocked up by this ultimate coming out from Galio.
Hextech Ultimatum bought them the space and then just barely outside the overlap. And do we have the replay of Ryoma's attempted regank here?
That would be really good, really entertaining. Just watch him walk by.
Yeah, because I think he tried to heroic charge and just missed. But on the mini map, it just walked past. I don't know.
I believe it. I think the funniest thing is just like the comms that are happening. Is you know Brandini is like, what is this guy doing?
Question mark pinged him 3 times on the mini-map, so yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish that the other team could see only question mark pings. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. It would be even better if like they could read the intention of the question mark ping, be able to differentiate like, oh, is this a question mark ping because they are missing somebody, like they don't know where they are, or is it a question mark ping because, you know, the other reason why I use question mark ping, like what
the reason why
happening?
you use question mark pings. People just type missing nowadays.
Poom?
Poom's vibing. Flash, burned, ult, burned, out of the jungle.
Vibing. Yeah, that's a mood right there. Haha. Get it? He's a cow. Mood.
Maybe I should handle the puns from here on. Maybe you can take the back seat on that one.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mood?
We'll find better timing.
Is that the joke?
Mood. Are you booting me?
Like even... It's even worse. You one-upped yourself.
You gotta be proud of your bad jokes, DJ. I'm going to stand by them.
Well,
we're gonna hang on to these for
that's
later.
One of us that's proud of you.
I'm gonna add these to the notebook and we'll use them again. What? Oh, nice flash.
Hawks, you nutcase. That was the full-on Matador impression. There's a cow joke.
Yeah.
Waving red, flashing over the top. How they do it in Spain.
Yeah. Honestly, that was super sick, because he was definitely going to die if he didn't do that, right? There were 4 members of 100 Thieves right around that were ready to pounce. And it's not going to cost him anything either, right? Like, he still got this Hex Flash. He can still move around the map, and because they saw Kenvia on the bottom half, as he continues to stay perfectly in vision of the enemy team so nicely, they're going to be able to pick up this Rift Herald and walk away, because he's got 2... Oh, he didn't pick it up!
Kenvi has no mercy. Stand United will be spent. There is the heroic entrance behind that. Keel will be safe behind the turret in the meantime. Poom is overstepped, but Andy Bendy finds the kill, and Hooks is diving in to try and make something happen. Heal will keep Poom up 1 HP as Hooks keeps going, and will shut down their opposing support. They are the only CLG member left alive in this fight. I do not know how that happened. Luke will be being hunted here by the curtain call, stays ahead of it, but CLG lose their gold lead.
They do. Yeah, honestly, there is so much that happened there. And the most important thing after all of that is the fact that CLG did not pick up the Rift Herald. Brandini just goes in. Yeah.
And there was the timing too. It just wasn't... Like, it was a misclick. Keel not able to get it.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, they ended up spending a lot of time doing relatively little. And we have another team fight about to come up as... Kenvi just gonna huck a spirit, right? He could have picked this up, but there's so much that happens here. Brandini uses the ult in order to try and keep them alive, but then he ends up fighting Tenacity on the far side, and you know Deus is also fighting. So it's just like everybody just happens to show up at different times, and there's just like a bit of a party, just about all over the place. And Team Luke is able to find. Hooks actually picks up a kill, but he has to flash right on out.
That's my favorite part, is that the Leona is the one with the kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Putting the Allen Rift Herald as Team Luke does stay ahead of this. Oh, nice in the slow-mo, barely.
Yeah, I guess there is an L in Rift Herald. It's towards the end, but it still works.
There is now. CLG put it.
There is an L.
This will be a fight over the Drake. CLG are 2-0 up in Drake, so they still have a pretty firm lead if they can convert this.
Yeah. This would be helpful.
Cut off by this Weaver's Wall. But so are CLG.
What? Okay.
100.
I thought
there was a
plat. Down, right?
There was no step 2. Drake's picked up 100 Thieves with the zoning for Poom. TP in as well. That's going to be the arrival of Ryoma right in the fight. Low HP on Poom. They will be the first to fall. But you see a deep dive there from Ryoma. And a guaranteed trade. 2 for 1. Hooks and Brandini both down as 100 Thieves make out like bandits.
Get it? Because they're thieves?
Yeah, that was the joke.
Yeah, but make sure Twitch chat understood.
Okay, well, it's good. Twitch chat missed that sort of thing.
Yeah,
CLG?
okay.
What was that?
Yeah, can we talk about Keel's ultimate
No,
during that?
I don't think we can talk about it. I don't think there's any way we can describe that.
Yeah, it was bad.
Well,
I don't understand what the idea was.
I thought
Like
there was
normally
gonna
I
be...
can come up with a reason for things that players do, but this time I was like, did he misclick? Because
He's
that
just-
is the wrong angle.
It must have been a misunderstanding of where the team was, which is excusable because Keel is a sub. But yeah, we're a little too late in this replay, but it just walled CLG out of the entire fight. And of course, this was real clean.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes in, and we've been seeing some pretty impactful Alistar combos, right? They end up getting 3 people there, and you get a pretty big taunt coming out from Ryoma as well, and he's able to survive. So ultimately, they're able to, again, get pretty much everything they wanted. They grab the dragon, so they stop CLG's counter, they get a couple of kills, and suddenly they're in control of the gold lead once again. And now as mythics are starting to come out, we're seeing a lot of extra mobility currently on the 100 Thieves roster between the Protobelt coming in on the Galio and the Gale Force currently in Andy Bendy's inventory.
I don't want to go too hard on things because this is, of course, Academy. I'll hold this thought as RJS maybe going a little too hard in the mid lane here. But those are the sort of mistakes that absolutely need to be ironed out. Speaking of, back line, Hextech ultimatum in. Ryoma does find a knockup, but Tenacity's already gone. Keel from the back of this fight is trying to just throw rocks in, but they're losing teammates, low HP, especially on Brandini in the front lines, as nobody other than Tenacity goes down in that whole mess. Luke, of course, the instant trade, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That was way less bloody than I thought it was about to be.
Yeah. I'm actually getting kind of worried for 100 Thieves because they've been trying to force a lot of these fights, but they're not actually finding much of an advantage off of it. And unfortunately, a lot of these characters aren't as relevant later on in the game, right? Like, one of my favorite things about Zoe, or favorite things to say, is that as time approaches infinity, Zoe is eventually going to one-shot Andy Bendy, and there's nothing he can do about it. Right? Eventually that is going to happen, and suddenly you're going to have a 5v4 in favor of CLG. And as this poke becomes more devastating, as Taliyah becomes more and more threatening to be able to just blow somebody up in these sieges and pick situations, 100 Thieves are starting to kind of run out of time as we see how this fight actually started. As Team Luke gets traded, but Nasty is in a 1v4.
Yeah. 100 Thieves is turned to not really have the best cooldown positioning there. Can be with a really good stasis in the middle of that fight.
Yeah.
But nothing else comes of it. So we'll cut back to the action where things are indeed happening. Hooks will have the CC in the front line, and I think that means Team Luke's going to get away. Hooks will not.
Yeah. Oh.
Kenby walked into that! I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
fine, Poob's there, but Kenby catching some beach balls there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's going to be a-okay. They're going to walk away when all is said and done. And ooh, even Alistar able to slyly dodge away. And it's kind of scary, right, at this point in the game. We already touched on it a little bit, but just there are so many things you need to be aware of between the Zoe and the Taliyah, where if any of them end up hitting you, you can just be dead from 100% HP because there's not a lot of true tanks on the side of 100 Thieves. You have Poom, who can get a whole bunch of temporary damage reduction over the course of a team fight. And then you kind of have Ryoma, who is going to have a little bit of extra HP because he's got the magic damage shield. But everybody else will just disappear if they get hit by a seismic shovel or a bubble.
Yeah, and on the opposite side, CLG do have Leona, the quintessential teamfight support. So, certainly plenty of options as we go late, I think. You would be hard-pressed to say that these late-game teamfights are going any other way than CLG. Here we go in the mid-game, though. Already a strong start for Tenacity. Hextech Ultimatum is backed up. That is the 100 Thieves teamfight they want, but they are taking damage. Luke able to trade 1 for 1, and Killer Instinct onto Riona in the back of the fight with no follow-up. And that is a bridge too far. Kenby secures the kill. Hooks and Keel try to burn down the Drake in the meantime, and Riona punishes it. A double taunt and a double kill. A complete team ace. Drake over to 100 Thieves as they finally get the team fight they've been scrapping for this entire game.
Yeah, they finally found RJS in that last team fight. They caught him out. They locked him down with the combo that they drafted as their first 2 picks in the game. Both Camille and Galio able to lock him down, and now as they're going to be able to move forward, they don't get a whole lot more off of that. They grab the Dragon, so they are now halfway to picking up the Cloud Soul. But more importantly, they're not going to be able to pick up any of these structures off the map. It's 100 Thieves still have a lot of time left where they're able to fight anything. And we see the poke starting to come through between these 3 champions, right? Kenby and Poom take a lot of damage, but the big thing is RJS thinks that he can go a little bit aggressive, but he doesn't respect the fact that Tenacity around the side is able to get right on top of him. And now, because of the proper timing between the Hextech Ultimatum and the hero's entrance, you can't get out of the knockup. That's all that matters.
Beautiful start of the fight. And Luke just overestimates how much they can get done, spots an opportunity to maybe turn things, and doesn't manage to do that. And as a result, 100 Thieves, I think it is safe to say, in every metric, have a lead. There were some worries about their team fight potential in late game. We did both agree that CLG probably win out in a hyper late game team fight. But 100 Thieves, for the first time, have the gold advantage, have the kill advantage, to be able to force this game over more quickly.
Yeah. But we're still looking at Tenacity, right, as one of these major engage tools. He's the one who's going to get team fight started most of the time. Poom kind of just wants to pick people out, whereas Tenacity's going to be like, aha, I'm going to jump on the Zoe. I'm going to jump on the Kaisa, and he might be the one getting caught out right now as Keel's around the corner.
Yeah, does get taunted. Does get burned, will go down. Back over to you.
Yeah, something I just noticed, TJ. Keel is the highest level in the game. He is level 15.
Apart from that one Rift Herald play and that one Drake play, Keel has been doing really well. And it's...
Yes.
I really wanted to call out Keel for performing above and beyond our expectations, because frankly they have been, but it's been a little difficult because of those 2 very, very noticeable flubs.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's kind of been interesting to watch the players that have been overperforming that are playing as substitutes, right? Keel has been
earlier
looking
today.
good. Yeah, Fizzy was the other one, exactly, who I was like, I had to apologize because he did so well in his game. But now, as the game starts to stall out a little bit, as 100 Thieves starts to bring people together to potentially look for a Baron play, they still got to remember that Tenacity on the far side of the map is not particularly strong.
This is so well timed. And that would be what I think has changed from early game 100 Thieves that looked way more shaky, frankly, than I expected the 100 Thieves Academy to look, to now, is they are winning the vision game, they understand where the other team is. CLG won the first few levels off of really dominant map control from Keel, really dominant vision control. And 100 Thieves have kind of woken up to that, I think.
Yeah. They should be in a good spot. One thing that I hadn't really taken into account, if you look at the itemization for Brandini, I don't normally look at itemization all that much, but he's got a Spectre's Cowl and a Kindle Gem, and it looks to be building towards a Spirit Visage off of that, right? It's a pretty good Shen item, but unfortunately, Camille doesn't do a whole lot of magic damage. The magic resistance here is not as impactful, and because of the fact that Kenby is currently 4-1-6 on this Nidalee and is going to be doing a significant chunk of damage later on, it's forced Brandini into the suboptimal itemization in order to try and go for these 1v1. You don't want to have a Spirit Visage against Tenacity. You only want to have it for a lot of these team fights, and so it might have actually sped things up a little bit where Tenacity can start being a little bit more aggressive on the map in these 1v1s in ways that I wasn't previously expecting.
Yeah, and Tenacity doesn't look too right in terms of KD right now if you're just glancing at the scoreboard. It's been a day. But
Yes.
Tenacity is doing a really good job of starting these fights, kind of playing a secondary support and playing the engage support. And that isn't reflected in the scoreboard.
It's not. We'll see how well they can actually get this next engage going, because we have the team fight counter. 10 seconds left, and it doesn't look like CLG are particularly interested in participating. So that should mean the 100 Thieves likely able to pick up the Dragon without a whole lot of contest. And the extra movement speed and the extra ultimate cooldowns are actually really impactful this game for Tenacity and Ryoma, because those are their major engage tools. Those are the things they're playing around in order to try and get these team fights started. And the faster they are, the more often you can get them while the flashes are down from people like RJS and Team Luke.
And as you predicted, 100 Thieves will grab that Drake, no problem whatsoever. Counting to 3, as you'd like to say.
Yeah.
I don't know, I thought a demonstration would follow or something, but didn't have anything for that. The next major objective...
That's really hard. Just because the players can do it doesn't mean that I can.
No, that's a fair point. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. The next major objective on the map is this Baron, of course, at least for the next 4 minutes. So we will see what 100 Thieves and CLG do about that. We've been talking hypothetically about CLG's ability to win late game team fights, but we frankly just haven't seen it so far.
Yeah. They don't seem particularly eager to, like, line up and fight. Oh, yeah, it's Ryoma.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cutting off the flank here, but Galio goes over those. And now you have the rest of the team pressing forward. CLG outnumber the 100 Thieves members here because Andy Bendy is nowhere to be seen, but it doesn't matter. A huge taunt from Ryoma. And there is the follow-up. Tenacity diving in to find a kill, dropping the Hextech ultimatum onto Brandini, who's very far forward in this fight, acting as the tank. Meantime, Andy Bendy has finally arrived, and boom, dropping very low, has to flash away, disengaging him. And CLG have turned this team fight. Kedby and Andy Bendy need to pull out a miracle here, or otherwise CLG walk away with an opportunity, at least, to grab these major objectives. Boom, Kenby still spoiling Ryoma. Off of the back from base, will flash in, taunt does land. That could be it, Kenby the spear! It is huge, and now CLG are too far forward. RJS will dive in, focus on trying to find a single kill, and they cannot do it. 100 Thieves turn the tables after they've already been turned. They put it back the right way up. I don't believe it, Josh. As Brandini goes down, 100 Thieves clean up a major team fight and turn instantly to Baron.
Yeah, oh my god, they're so low though. I don't know if they can actually do that, even though it's just hooks on the map. But
I was calling it as I saw it, and then I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, wow. I still think my favorite part of that whole thing was just watching Andy Bendy take down both Team Luke and RJS underneath the turret. He's like, all right, you, and then you. But ultimately, that team fight, as good as it was for 100 Thieves, doesn't mean a whole lot, right? They don't really get a whole lot more in terms of a gold lead at this point in the game. They don't get any structures. They don't pick up the Baron. All they do is drag the game out a little bit longer, which we've already kind of touched on, is CLG favored and gives CLG another opportunity to try and find a fight. But they've been not proactively looking to siege. They've just been waiting for 100 Thieves to do things. And as we see the Galio come back in here, yeah, it's, you know, people are out of resources. They don't have ultimates. They don't have summoner spells. Yeah, watch Andy Bendy. He's just like, here it goes. Boop.
Boop. Andy Bendy's like, I've got auto attacks, and that makes me the strongest champion in this fight.
Yeah, very helpful. So, yeah, a bunch of kills go over.
They're like, let's do Baron. They're like, wait.
It's like, wait. All right, but we have another one of those coming up in about 90 seconds. We have our team fight counter still going on.
That is, of course, the Drake timer in the top left. This would be Soul of 100 Thieves get it, but they grab Brandini first, and there's the wombo combo properly executed. Brandini is gone, hooks too far forward, down as well, surely. The curtain call is chasing him, and will confirm the kill. Andy Bendy there for a big pickup. Oh, and Keel steps into it, does have spell shield, so won't go down. 100 Thieves could turn for objectives, seem content to just charge forward. Ryoma annihilates Luke there, and now they'll turn for an objective, but it's not going to be the Drake.
Yeah, it's going to be this Baron, as they're going to be trying to do it with both a Talia and a Zoe hovering around. Remember, a Baron still shreds your magic resist over time, but they have enough zoning members involved that should be difficult for RJS and Kill to get in. They're going to take down Poom.
3k on the Baron. No chance to get in. Baron will be picked up successfully by Kenvi, and they even find a turn onto Keel. Superior team fighting, kind of making up the difference here for 100 Thieves.
Yeah. It's really exciting because it means that we have another one coming up in just a couple of seconds where a bunch of members are going to be missing. Keel is dead, but so are Tenacity and Poom, as the Cloud Soul is going to be spawning here, and 100 Thieves likely going to be there first, and with no jungler on the side of CLG currently on the map, I wonder if they're going to just be willing to do it. Wow, look at that damage already to Hooks.
Hooks was poked, but they won't find anything more to follow that up with. Andy certainly is scary, but as we've talked about, there are very big team fight assassination tools for CLG. I don't think CLG should really be poking forward like they are, because Keel's not with them. They just want to stall this out. They don't actually want to take the Drake fight.
Yeah, Keel's just now coming out. He does have the Weaver's Wall, so he can get there relatively quickly, but...
Not.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't try and rush the contest. Keel's just headed towards top lane.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult spot overall for this team to try and hold out for most of these major objectives because of how strong 100 Thieves dive really is.
I'd like to apologize. I have a little bit of a frozen screen on my end. Do you have that? There we go.
I do. Oh, there we go. We're back.
Getting increasingly
unsure.
This
is the previous fight.
The nature of remote production, sometimes you're like, is this happening for me?
Yeah.
There was
we get to see this.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea from Keel's wall this time, but unfortunately, it didn't actually block anybody off that was around it. Like, Kenvi just popped right on over it. Everybody else was on the correct side of the wall, and then Team Luke walks just a little bit too far forward. So, I mean, Keel played the early game pretty darn well, but these Weaver's walls on Talia have, asked a lot of questions that we're going to need answers for later on.
I have great news for anyone who's watching me cast for the first time. I stand up to cast, which is information people don't normally know, but now you do.
But now you do. Congratulations, you're in on a little bit of a secret, and unfortunately, as we are on the West Coast, the lighting has changed.
It's getting darker. Josh becoming a goth, reverting to his natural state. I think, have you ever done like eyeliner? Doesn't really go with chess club though.
I've never done eyeliner for myself, but I have had other people do eyeliner as like testing stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like one of those things where it's like, oh, I think you'd look really good with some cat eye, and then they just give you a whole lot of like this black stuff, and it's like,
the important question, Josh, as we get back into game, is did you?
Oh, I looked fantastic, but I think that was more me and less the cat eye.
Oh, okay. Just the confidence that makes the difference. Speaking of things that look fantastic, that Drake was picked up, making this soul over to 100 Thieves as they look to close out this game, and they are indeed pushing for it. Inhibitor is down in the mid lane. Hooks will be poked around the side, but not go down. And they're just taking their time on this siege.
Yeah, it's going to be, big damage down onto Andy Bendy, and that's kind of what we were talking about. You got to be very careful, because as T goes to infinity, odds get closer and closer to 100%, and now Tenacity should be strong enough to actually be winning these fights, and we just see two people can be also there. They're going to get the bottom inhibitor.
Yeah, Brandini left alone on an island, and it's not a nice island at all. Inhib will fall, so does Brandini, and this will be the shove for the game. It was a messy one. 100 Thieves were vulnerable for a lot of it, but CLG were never able to convert on the team fights they needed to win. And 100 Thieves' superior team fighting has earned them out a win. As they fight down the last remaining players of CLG, RJS, who has looked fantastic throughout the game, gets some last poke in, taking out Andy Bendy. But even he cannot end this game. It will be 100 Thieves driving it all the way to their first Academy win.
Yeah, we had some questions about that one, TJ, whether or not they'd be able to pull it through, but they did have the team fighting prowess at the end of the day. They were able to find all the fights that they really needed to, and with everything in their pockets at the very end, it just felt like they were a little bit more coordinated and were able to take down everything they needed from CLG.
Do you have any lights in there, or are we just going to be in the dark for the rest of this?
We'll get them, but I don't want to get up.
You don't, not like, well, I mean, you could. Just
I would have to get up, and so then it would just be like a chair, and you could see like, the rest of my room.
Okay.
My bed is made, which is actually a shocker.
I don't understand what you're afraid of. Show us the lights, Josh. In the meantime, we are going to head to a quick break. When we come back, it will be our star player interview from 100 Thieves. I think we saw pretty much what we expected from that team, which was, oh, they've got the team fights, they've got the coordination, but it's still shaky around the rest of it.
Yeah, we'll get to see this team grow as time goes on. Obviously, it is a different beast moving from amateur into academy. You do need to have a little bit more coordination, and we saw, glimpses of brilliance coming out. We also saw glimpses of limit testing coming through. Unfortunately, when those are coming out on stage, they look not as good as when they do in solo queue.
Yeah, CLG not quite able to put it together, never quite looking coherent, but did also have moments of brilliance. I know it's kind of cheating, it's kind of a shout out to 100 Thieves, but Hooks, who just graduated from that academy, or next program, sorry, did look particularly good. We're going to go to that quick break. We'll come back with an interview. Then after that, of course, it is FlyQuest versus EGA as our nightcap. Josh, you can watch it and go to bed. Don't go far, don't go to bed just yet. We've got a game still ahead of us. we're back with an interview in a few moments. We believe it's going to be with Kenvi, but we're sorting out some tech issues, so it may take a little bit longer. I want to talk about that game before we get to it now. Maybe we can lay the groundwork for our interview conversation. Because 100 Thieves did just eventually take down CLG, but I think eventually is the right word. It took them a while, and they had to go past their win condition to do it.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to see how the early game ended up shaking out, right? Because Keel and Kenvi were very much on opposite sides of the map for a significant part of it. And unfortunately, Kenvi and Tenacity weren't able to really find a whole lot up against Brandini Shen, whereas Keel was able to fairly consistently find small advantages. He was able to consistently be in the right spot because of how much vision control they had over Kenvi's position. They saw him on the bottom side of the map when he was trying to clear. They saw him on the top side of the map when he was trying to gank Brandini, and Keel was able to consistently find these small gold advantages, and by the end of the game, he was the highest level player for a decent part of it just because he got so much farm that he was up, I believe, close to 60 at one point over his opponent.
Yeah, and that's kind of... Like, obviously, there were some big mistakes from Keel that game that are unfortunately going to tint our view of him in total, but he really did outplay Kenvi during the early parts of that game. It was really good vision, it was a really good jungle pathing, and punishing Kenvi when Kenvi was like, I don't care, I'm still gonna try and steal jungle camps. And Keel and the rest of CLG were able to win that early game by virtue of better jungle play. And then once we got to the mid-game, it became apparent, I think, that CLG weren't able to put together a solid team fight against 100 Thieves. And you at first were like, okay, this is a composition thing, and as we get later, that's going to change, and then it kind of did.
Yeah, I think CLG looked a little bit lost in what they wanted to do, right? Kind of like that criticism we had in relation to a lot of like the losing like Janair versus losing like KT or Kingzone, right? One of these teams is still going to be trying to make plays. CLG were just like, and eventually they'll make a mistake, and we'll capitalize on it when it happens. But they didn't really do anything to force errors. They were just waiting for their opponents to make unforced errors. And, while there were a couple, CLG was never in a position to actually capitalize on it heavily enough. And they ended up losing because they were never able to make practice plays.
Yeah, I have just heard word from our wonderful producer that unfortunately we can't raise Kenvi on the line, so we won't have an interview. A brief interview with you instead, Joshi. How excited are you about FlyQuest versus Evil Genius Academy?
Honestly, I think it's going to be a pretty interesting game, right? Like, you look at these two teams where we have a lot of players coming up from, the places we were talking about, NA Amateur as well as the Oceanic region, where it's going to be interesting to see how they're actually going to be able to play. I think the biggest name a lot of people are going to be
unfortunately, we're out of time for our interview. We're going to have to go to a break. We'll be back. Me and Joshi for EG versus FlyQuest. You wanted the player interview experience? You're getting it. We'll be right back. More games after this.